What's up, everyone? My name is Blue, and we are back again with more malicious compliance posts. All these people are doing is exactly what they're told. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to the channel. And with that, let's get into it. Bait and switch for a tech demo? So back in the day when I worked for Midsize Co., which was wholly owned by Giant Company, there was a big tech fest in Barcelona, and Giant Company was going to be there. Just a few days before the fest, they realized they needed someone from Midsize Co. to demonstrate our soon-to-be-released game, but it was less than a week away. So my producer came to me, I was the product's design lead, and said, "We really need you to go to Barcelona, but because of the short notice, we can't order you to go." I looked at him. He said, "Giant Company guy that I liked says if you go, you can either A, fly first class, or B, take your wife." Well, the thought of scoring major karma with my wife, who speaks Spanish fluently, was the deal maker, and I said, "You bet," and immediately phoned my wife with the exciting news. Just 2 days before we were due to fly to Spain, some bean counter at Giant Company decided the deal they'd offered me was too good, so decided to walk back on the offer. It wasn't written down, after all. My producer came to me and said I couldn't take my wife when I went. So I replied, "Okay then, I won't go." My producer grinned and went back to the bean counter, who was amazed that I'd walked it back. He thought for sure I'd want the trip to Spain, right? Now, he had no one to demo the Midsize Co. product. No one at Giant Company could do it, and no one else at Midsize Co. would do it after hearing how they tried to screw me. The bean counter caved immediately, and me and wifey got our trip to Barcelona. I sat in a big white room talking about tech specs to nerds all weekend, and wife got to see the city. I did manage to go out to dinner with her in the evenings. Squid ink paella and tapas for the win. I am told that since they had to book my wife's ticket the day we flew, it cost Giant Company an extra $1,000. Peanuts for them, but still. Of course, the source of the problem is that the bean counter had a false perspective. It's not a trip to Spain for me. It's a trip to a big white room full of other nerds for the weekend. If I can't even score wife points, it was absolutely not worth the trip. The malicious compliance part is that big company said, if you go, you get X, then rescinded X, so I complied by saying, also rescind the if you go part. Yeah, I mean, if you can't make them go, and then you offer the wifey points, and then take away the wifey points, I wouldn't have gone either. Too sick to practice, too sick to play. This was my junior year of high school, approximately 12 to 13 years ago. I was on the softball team, and the head coach was kind of a hothead/jerk. I had already played for him my sophomore year, so I'd seen his blow-ups firsthand, but wasn't on the receiving end of one until the first week of junior year. I was feeling pretty terrible at school all day, so my mother came to pick me up a little early during softball. The coach was furious. He didn't believe that I wasn't feeling well, yelled that if I was too sick to practice, then I was too sick to play, and to turn in my uniform once I was feeling better, assuming I'd be back the next day, I imagine. Well, I was out with meningitis for 5 days, the most horribly sick I've ever been. When I returned, I turned in my clean and neatly folded uniform, apologized for being too sick to practice, and asked if I could go to the library to study. The coach was stunned and tried talking me out of it, but I reminded him that I was merely maliciously, complying with his request to turn in my uniform. There was no talking me out of it. I was a pretty stubborn teenager. It actually ended up working out for me in the long run. To avoid any backlash and allow me to remain maliciously compliant, the coach worked out a deal with my AP World History teacher. I would go to her room instead of softball for the rest of the semester, and she would email him confirming I was there so he could count me present for the day. I was struggling in AP World History, so going twice a day helped me keep my grade at a passing level while still receiving the required PE credit for softball. I tanked the AP test, but passed the class, and I never played softball for that school again. Kicking someone off of the softball team for being sick, like legitimately with meningitis, that feels illegal. Write everything down? Okay. English is not my first language. Then carry on with me. I worked at night in a factory that puts ketchup and mayonnaise and so on in bottles, many years ago. We got a new production manager who has all the fine management courses. But if you asked about a new rule that he had made, he went into defense mode and did not answer why that rule came, but that we should just follow it. One of the things he said was we should hurry slower. By that, he meant we should not run, but we should work faster. Yes, it did not make sense. Enough background story. Morning meeting at 07:30 with the night team and the day team. There was no leader at night, only us night people. Production manager.
Good morning, everyone. There has been a slowdown in production, and we have to find out why. So from now on, you have to write everything down as you do. How long everything takes.
Wind DK, tired after 8 hours of work. Everything you say? Production manager.
Yes.
Wind DK, grin on my face. Okay. The meeting ends with some boring numbers that I do not remember, and I stamp out. In the locker room, colleague asks, "Why that grin on your face?" Wind DK. He needs to know everything. And I mean everything. Ranging from how long it takes to walk into the machine to how many steps I walk between all things. Colleague. It is nighttime and I have to start work. I have a stopwatch and step counter. We talk to the evening team and get to know everything. They are upset about having to write everything down. They have only written time between each product, things like cleaning and packaging change. We start to write everything down, and I mean everything. It took 2 minutes and 26 seconds to change bottles. It took 45 seconds to write this line. My colleague does the same. And I fill in 7 pages with handwriting. My colleague, about 5 pages. And drop it off at the office. I slept well that day. When I got to work in the evening, PM was there. Production manager.
Wind, will you come into my office?
I walk into his office and there sits my colleague. Production manager.
Are you funny enough?
Wind. No, we just did what you said. Wrote everything down. Colleague. Yes, Wind even asked for that morning meeting and it was everything that needed to be written down. And you answered yes. Production manager.
Well, but it's redone now. There are forms you have to fill out and only what the form asks of you.
Wind. Okay. Colleague. Okay. Production manager.
Out and change.
Nothing more happened with it. I have other history with the production manager, but they will probably come another time. I love that our poster even took the time to write down how long it was taking to write down everything. That's like the next level of malicious compliance. And that's all the time we have today for these malicious compliance stories. If you liked any of the stories, make sure to click that like button and make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any more stories. Thanks for listening, everyone. Catch you later.